He has no problem with that, but there is a catch.
I would honor a return bout with Mike Tyson, but it would have to be after the Evander Holyfield. Evander is the #1 contender, and by me being heavyweight champion, I'll have to take on the #1 contender.
Mike Tyson's jet also touched down on U.S. soil today. In New York City, Tyson predicted a different outcome if there's a rematch with Douglas.
If I'm given the opportunity to fight again for the title, I guarantee to bring the championship back to New York.
Calling less fanfare, Tyson said he'll be back in the ring training just as soon as the swelling subsides. He gives credit to Douglas, but vows to be back.
I'll be okay. Buster Douglas for the great fight, and I'll be champion again within 6 months.
College basketball.
On his professional record, and the first significant blemish on his face, a big, swollen left eye from the constant barrage of Douglas's constant right hand. Returned home to New York today. Tyson said, "It was no big deal. I've always come back from losses." The only problem is Mike Tyson has never suffered a loss as a professional. Meanwhile, there's George Foreman, who thought he would be the one to smash the Tyson mystique, but Buster Douglas beat him to the punch.
The reign of terror is over. Mike Tyson, he can forget it now. All this mystique about him being the toughest guy, his part animal and all of that, it's dead. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. And then all the Don King horses and his men can't put him back together again.
Don King has now ruined another fighter. He ruined Witherspoon, Page, Tubbs, Dokes, Holmes. Now he's ruined Mike Tyson.
You know, much has been made of the count by referee Octavio Meyran. The key in a count out is not necessarily 10 seconds, but the count of 10. Mendoza clearly counted to 10 on Douglas, who had his eyes clearly affixed to the referee and got up between the count of 8 and 9, as all fighters are trained to do. As it turned out, from the time Douglas hit the deck at the end of the 8th round till the time he got up at the count of 9, it was 13.6 seconds. Mike Tyson, who was knocked into the middle of next week, the end of the 10th round was counted out in 14 seconds. But again, it's the count of 10, not the number of seconds. Octavio Meyran certainly knows how to count to 10. He apparently doesn't do it very quickly.
James Buster Douglas left Columbus an unknown and returned home as a hero, brandishing a belt that marked one of the greatest upsets in boxing history. To those in this town, there is no dispute about who's the heavyweight champion of the world. Among those thousands who greeted him at the airport, hundreds were children.
Okay, I'd like to thank all the little people, all the kids.
Look, Mike Tyson, ow.
We had just studied about Martin Luther King having a dream, and we said he could do it too.
Nothing can take away from the inspiration of Buster's beating the invincible, but there are those trying to take away his title, declaring that Douglas benefited from a long count when he went down in the 8th round.
And I think it's just bogus, you know. I mean, to be a champion is one thing, but to honor that championship and accept defeat as well as victory is another. And I don't think he's accepting defeat at all.
Although Douglas carries with him the WBC belt, ironically, it's that organization, along with the WBA, who are declaring the title vacant until a decision is reached next week.
I'm gonna get the IBF belt because they have recognized me as the heavyweight champion of the world.
But they're not getting that belt back.
No, this one, no.
All the eyes of all the people in this world, James Douglas, without a doubt, is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
Not in everyone's eyes. Tyson's manager, Don King, instigated the controversy with his charges about the long count. He returned to New York today with Tyson sporting sunglasses to cover his badly battered left eye.
Well, it's a bad situation at the time, but I'll be okay. Buster Douglas for the great fight, and I'll be champion again within 6 months.
Yeah, Mike declared a no contest.
Will there be a rematch, champ? We don't know. It's up to the governing body. But if I'm given the opportunity to fight again for the title, I guarantee to bring the championship back to New York.
Tyson and King would make millions from a rematch, but King says it's not a question of capitalism, but another characteristic of our country.
There's no hope of fair play. That's what our country is all about. Justice, fair play. There's nothing about anything else other than fair play. That's all we want. That's all we're concerned with.
That brand of patriotism rings hollow in Columbus.
I don't know what exactly their beef is, but and I think if they decide not to honor, honor me as heavyweight champion, I think it would just be, it's ludicrous.
But the hero of the little people hasn't heard the last from the big names in boxing.
Bye, guys. Nice talking to you, only in America.
Hannah Storm, CNN Sports.
A parade honoring Douglas will be held Wednesday morning in the Ohio capital city. Douglas says he will only honor a rematch with Tyson after fighting #1 contender Evander Holyfield in June. They want to hold that fight on the Ohio State campus. Well, meanwhile, Holyfield flew to his hometown of Atlanta to remap his life. Holyfield was guaranteed at least $13 million for his June 18th meeting with Tyson, but that bout is, of course, probably not going to come off. So Holyfield's chance at the most lucrative fight in boxing history is quite possibly just a memory now. But still, he just wants to fight, and he doesn't care who it is.
I went to this fight with an open mind. My goal is to be the heavyweight champion of the world, not just to fight Mike Tyson. Buster Douglas is a heavyweight champion, for all I'm concerned, and I felt that, you know, I should fight the champion. But it's all depending on which way the governing body of WBC and WBA protest.
Buster Douglas won the heavyweight championship. He won it legitimately. He decisively beat the Mike Tyson that was handled by those people. And that is the one thing I disagree with. Mike Tyson and King should never have permitted that to happen. Buster Douglas won the fight. He is the champion, but there is a legitimate controversy on the basis of which a rematch should be ordered, and I hope it does take place.
Superb fight by Buster Douglas. I thought it was the greatest performance by a heavyweight. I mean, he truly did what was necessary to beat Mike Tyson. And then to hear hours later that there is some controversy that stemmed from the long count, I think it's ludicrous. It's atrocious. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson fair and square.
This is something that was seen by the world, and I think the fight fans are going to be the judges this time, because between you and I in the kitchen sink, they saw Tyson get knocked out. The only champion, to me, is Douglas. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts. The innuendos, what happened before, going back to what happened before, the count and everything else. The referee counted, and the kid's looking at the referee's eyes. He's not looking at the timekeeper. He counted 8. He got up. So there's no big deal in my mind that the fighter did get up, and the fighter did go on to knock out Tyson. He was the better man that night.
Now, Douglas doesn't have universal support of his stunning knockout of Tyson in Tokyo, so his fate is in the hands of bureaucrats now. 2 of boxing's 3 governing bodies, the WBA and WBC, will make an announcement within a week to 10 days. There are reports that the World Boxing Association could meet as early as Tuesday to make their decision on the heavyweight title. Well, boxing enthusiasts aren't just talking about that alleged long count. The new guys in Tyson's corner are coming under fire. Promoter Don King is the man being blamed for Tyson's lackluster effort by former Tyson business manager Bill Caton and Tyson's ex-trainer Kevin Rooney.
The saddest thing about the fight, the shocking thing about the fight, and I found the most sickening thing about the fight, is Mike Tyson leaving the ring, hurt, crying, knocked out for the first time in his career. And there is Don King smirking and smiling around the canvas, walking up to Buster Douglas. This is his M.O. He's done it in the past. I never thought he'd do it with Mike Tyson. He did it.
He wasn't, he wasn't prepared to fight. And then the corner couldn't motivate him, and because Mike didn't respect him. You could see that. He wasn't listening to them. He was, he would look down or he would look out. He wasn't listening to anybody, so.
Getting these people in his corner, King's henchmen in his corner, instead of professional, competent people that he had, was the greatest blunder he's made in his career.
Now, Rooney was replaced with cornermen Aaron Snowell and Jay Bright, and Caton said those 2 men weren't prepared for the bout, and their lack of professionalism defied description.
I'm Tom West with Headline Sports. Nothing seems to be simple anymore when it comes to boxing. It's taken almost 3 full days since the fight, but Buster Douglas is now officially recognized as the undisputed heavyweight champion after knocking out Mike Tyson Saturday night in Tokyo. The WBA extended its seal of approval today, and the executive board of the WBC was contacted by President Jose Suleiman. They concurred that Douglas is champion of the world. The The IBF never hesitated in giving Douglas its title. Promoter Don King says he never asked anybody to change the decision because of the referee's supposedly slow count when Douglas was dropped in the 8th round. King says he just wanted a first shot at a rematch. A report today says that Donald Trump has secured that bout for June 18th in Atlantic City. There has yet to be any confirmation from King. There could be a hitch if the boxing organizations mandate that #1 contender Evander Holyfield should get the first shot at Douglas. The first that Buster Douglas is officially being recognized as the undisputed heavyweight boxing champion without the sport's alphabet soup of organizations dragging the matter through any parade of hearings. The WBA today joined the IBF in declaring Douglas its champion following his 10th round knockout of former title holder Mike Tyson Saturday night in Tokyo. As for the WBC, its president, Jose Suleiman, says he was misunderstood in his comments about possibly not acknowledging the outcome of the fight, and that he's contacted the members of the WBC's executive board who've demanded that they recognize Douglas as champion of the world. In the meantime, promoter Don King has dropped his protest of the decision and also says that reports that Donald Trump will host a Douglas-Tyson rematch June 18th in Atlantic City are a bit premature, but King said it would be a great possibility. I'm Tom West with Headline Sports. Nothing seems to be simple anymore when it comes to boxing. It's taken almost 3 full days since the fight, but Buster Douglas is now officially recognized as the undisputed heavyweight champion after knocking out Mike Tyson Saturday night in Tokyo. The WBA extended its seal of approval today, and the executive board of the WBC was contacted by President Jose Suleiman. They concurred that Douglas is champion of the world. The IBF never hesitated in giving Douglas its title. Promoter Don King says he never asked anybody to change the decision because of the referee's supposedly slow count when Douglas was dropped in the 8th round. King says he just wanted a first shot at a rematch. A report today says that Donald Trump has secured that bout for June 18th in Atlantic City. There has yet to be any confirmation from King. There could be a hitch if the boxing organizations decide that #1 contender Evander Holyfield should get the first shot at Douglas.
Buster Douglas is heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Now, the IBF said so immediately after Douglas decked Mike Tyson in the 10th round Saturday night in Tokyo. The WBC and the WBA have concurred as of today after ruling promoter Don King's long count protest held no water. The reaction of Buster Douglas and his charges was rather predictable. You see, Buster wants his hardware.
Until I receive my 2 other belts, man, then I will totally feel fulfilled. You know, it's just the fact that the way it all came about, you know, trying to put a damper on one of the most happiest days of my life. You know, and I really felt bad about that.
Either Don King, Mike Tyson, the WBA, and the WBC were going to recognize and apologize to James Douglas because they sure did not show him respect after what he did and so on, or they were all going to be buried in the same hole. And not only we were trying to accomplish that, but fortunately we had the world behind us.
Well, there was no apology from King or the man who took the great fall Saturday night. King stands by his insistence that Tyson got a raw deal, that Douglas got a long count when canvassed in the 8th round, and that the fight should have been over right then and there. But as far as overturning the decisions reached by the sanctioning bodies...
Now, as masterful as I am supposed to be, I don't think that I would try to establish a fact that you have seen with your own eyes that is going to be something different because I say it's so. But I do appreciate the, I would say the left-handed type of accolade that has been bestowed on me that would make me such a mystique and such a master of trickeration that I could pull that off.
And what has Tyson to say?
I'm not the champion no more, and my objective is just to get the title back. Only thing I'm asking for from the champion now is just the rematch. I'll be okay.
Well, is that rematch going to happen? Donald Trump seems to think so.
The Mike Tyson fight seems that it's coming to Trump Plaza in June, probably around June 18th, against Buster Douglas. They're going to be calling it once and for all, so we'll see what happens.
But what about Holyfield? Evander Holyfield was slated to meet Tyson in June. Now, by his own apparent acquiescence, it seems that Holyfield will work the undercard of the proposed rematch and continue to wait for his shot.
Well, it's not the dollar value. Everybody thinks it's all about a dollar. I love the game of boxing. I've been doing it for 19 years, I did 13 years free. And I feel that when my time comes, I'm going to be ready, and I will be the heavyweight champion of the world.
Trickeration. Don't see it in here anywhere. Anyway, we understand that John Johnson and Don King are going to get together tomorrow to begin negotiations for a rematch. It looks like it's going to happen, but anyway, right now it's as clear as it's going to get until this summer. One thing is certain, though, all the King's money and all the King's men can't win Tyson the title again. Forget about all the rhetoric and the politics. This is going to have to be settled in the ring, as it should be.
Agrees on something. We finally have a heavyweight champ, but now the fun begins.
No controversy for the moment. Buster Douglas, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. That means no dispute, not from the WBC, not from the WBA. They all agreed today. All of boxing's alphabet men and the former champ were in harmony. The question now, will Mike Tyson or Evander Holyfield get that first shot at Buster? But all that talk of a bureaucratic end run, forget it. It was all just a misunderstanding. The WBC never said Buster Douglas wasn't champion. They just never said that he was the champion.
I, as a human being, made a big mistake. I did not think at the time of the disrespect that I was paying Buster Douglas at the time. The WBC members have demanded that we express immediately our official recognition of Buster Douglas as champion of the world.
Other voices changed as well. Mike Tyson after the fight.
I'm just asking for a fair chance. I mean, I don't mind. I lost before. Nothing's wrong with losing. I can handle a loss, but I want to lose fairly. Yeah, I lost. I mean, don't make excuses. A loss, you lost. I mean, these things happen. You know, it's just a temporary minor setback.
Don King in Tokyo.
Everybody has seen the facts, and the facts are irrefutable and incontrovertible.
Don King today.
Demir, let us defer to that champion and give him his just dues in his moment of glory.
Team Tyson explained their protest was to ensure they would be first in line to fight Douglas. King said it helped to market that rematch.
We have established the controversy that's necessary to give the public an opportunity to make their demand as to what they want to see. We are withdrawing all protests, so it's no longer a part of the governing bodies to make a decision. There is no more protest.
Meanwhile, Buster Douglas enjoys his role as hometown hero and media sensation. There is no clear answer to the question, what next?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Evander Holyfield is my first title defense, because he's the #1 reigning contender, and he was scheduled to fight the winner of the Douglas-Tyson match.
#1 contender Evander Holyfield says there are $3 million of Don King's money waiting for him to wait out this title shot. But
we don't have a rematch right now, Phil. What we're trying to do is to get one.
While Donald Trump says it's a done deal.
The Mike Tyson fight seems that it's coming to Trump Plaza in June, probably around June 18th, against Buster Douglas. They're going to be calling it once and for all, so we'll see what happens.
It is a classic Rubik's Cube of boxing. The WBC-WBA hesitation to anoint Douglas found one prominent critic of his own sport.
It's not well regulated, it's not well organized, and then when you have these Noriegas with their hands in the tail running things, then you got a real big problem. And indeed, Suleiman and Mendoza are to their organizations the same thing Noriega was to Panama.
Nobody but the boxers should be the people to solve controversies.
But it was promoter Shelley Finkel that gave the story the ultimate perspective.
I would consider anything if it makes sense. I would consider anything if it makes dollars, okay?
And tonight, Jose Suleiman told me on the phone that Bob Arum has made hundreds of millions of dollars from the WBC, yet he, using Jose's words, slanders and defames the organization. But Suleiman making the point also, Dan, that he felt justice had been done. WBA, we reported last night. Also, early this morning, WBC said it's official, keep the belts. There was no real controversy, they said today.
Evander Holyfield, everybody says he's the big loser. He's getting paid $3 million not to fight Tyson or Douglas. Can't lose there. He's going to get
the winner of this bout anyway, so I don't think he loses, and I think it also creates more interest in the boxing world. You know Tyson is not infallible anymore.
A lot of people will think by the end of 1990, the belts will be back in the possession of Mike Tyson.
Probably so. Now to the heavyweights in college.
James Douglas, so Buster is now the undisputed heavyweight champ. Tyson apparently will be his first title defense.